We are here to celebrate being veterans, to enjoy each other's company, to thank each other for the service we provided to our country. But let's not forget that we're probably going to be called on again to be public speakers, to serve in community organizations, and I would even advocate to operate on a national stage in a form of our voices as citizens of this country. And don't say that because I'm a spouse or a mother of a veteran that I'm less of a veteran, because all of us serve in one way or another. Some of the articles I was reading, trying to prepare to speak, sometimes our spouses and our family members had a more horrific experience than we did. They were home worrying about us. They were home worrying what was going to happen next. And after I come back and I speak to some of them, I go, my goodness, I didn't have that bad time. Yes, I was cold and wet and miserable, and maybe I was going to get shot at, but I wasn't that worried. I knew I was coming home. They didn't know that. So as we all sit here, if you're not a service member, I want to thank you for being our spouse and our support mechanism that got us back home, that gave us a reason to come back home. So all of us are veterans in one form or another, maybe not by the firmest definition, but we have all survived, we have all served. So for that, I thank all of you for being veterans and spouses and family and friends of veterans before I even start my speech. You know, we're here today to honor our heroes, to remember their achievements, their courage, and their dedication, to say thank you for their sacrifices. Thinking of the heroes who joined us in this group today and those who are here only in spirit, a person cannot help but feel awed by the enormity of what we encounter. We stand in the midst of patriots and family and friends of those who have nobly served. Again, being wounded doesn't make us a hero. Being in harm's way and being there voluntarily makes us heroes. And then here to ask you to all stand, I think we've done that. I'll say that this time I want to recognize all of you as veterans, and I do want to point out the diversity that we represent. I'm so happy to see that we have World War II veterans with us and people from the most recent conflicts. As organizations of VFW, American Legion, or just plain veterans who haven't belonged in those organizations, we have a great deal in common. Besides the diversity of where we fought, when we fought, and why we fought, we still have a common theme of service. And again, I'm going to skip some of this. As service members, we came from all walks of life, but we share several fundamental qualities. We possess courage, pride, determination, selflessness, and dedication to duty and integrity, because we are the ones who serve. All those qualities are needed to serve a larger cause than oneself. Many of us did not ask to leave our homes to fight on distant battlefields. Many didn't even volunteer. We went to war not because we loved fighting. We went because we were part of something that was bigger than ourselves. When I got alerted to go to Desert Storm, I had 19 and a half years service in. And my wife says to me, it's too late. You can't go. You should stay home with me. You have teenagers to take care of. I need you. The Army doesn't need you. They got thousands of soldiers. And I said, but dear, this is what I spent 19 and a half years in training for. What would it be like if I didn't go? Yes, my boss at the time could very well have left me at Fort Campbell to take care of the rear guard, but that wasn't appropriate. That wasn't leading from the front. I was a personal staff officer for that time, but I couldn't stay back. He turned to me and he said, Herb, are you going with us or are you going to take the rear guard? I said, sir, I'm going with you. Not because I was going to be able to change the effect of the war, but that was my job. That's why I was there. So I went.
It had to. It wasn't a matter of choice, it was a matter of that was my responsibility. So you go. Since the first shots at Lexington and Concord were fired in our Revolutionary War, men and women have been calling and answering the nation's call to duty. Millions have fought and died on battlefields here and abroad to defend our freedoms and our way of life. Today, our way of life is challenged like it's never been before. In many cases, the world is more hazardous now than it was for the last 250 years. Because our enemies in the past were across oceans that were difficult to cross. Our enemies now don't even have to attack us directly. They can sit on a computer and call other people to war against us wherever they may be. We live in a very confusing time. We need all of our citizens to participate. Today, our troops continue to make ultimate sacrifices, and even as we lose troops, more Americans step forward and say, I'm ready to serve. They follow in the footsteps of generations of fine Americans. I'm amazed by the people that I meet. I'll tell a story that will probably get me in trouble. When I was in high school, a lot of my friends joined the Guard to keep from going to Vietnam. The Guard was a safe way to go. I have a dear cousin I went to high school with, who, when he joined the Guard, I said, okay, I understand why he's joined the Guard. He served 40 years in the Guard. Went to Kosovo, went to Iraq, and did everything that I did and more, because I didn't get to put 40 years in. He did. So the world is constantly changing. Our Guard now is the forefront of these nasty, terrible police activities that we participate in. And then I see people joining the Guard, not because it's convenient and they can stay home, but they perceive that that is how they can best serve. And I go, my, how things have changed. And I'm so proud of the motivation for people who want to join. And I'll be real honest with you, have a much tougher way of serving your country now in the Guard than I did on active duty. Because on active duty, I was paid well, I was trained well, and I didn't have to worry about going back home and trying to pick up where I left off with my job. So in some cases today, the people who are serving in the Guard are to be highly commended. And don't forget that they don't go back to the old pre-Vietnam world biases. The active duty and the Guard were different. They're not today. Okay, that was a digression. If you're familiar with bird walks, remember I was a high school teacher, and my students loved to get me off on bird walks, and so I'm notorious for it. Let's see if I can get back on this track. After the First World War ended in November 11th of 1918, and that legislation created Veterans Day through Armistice Day. As time has gone on, we have had numerous conflicts, World War II, Korea, and we've had all kinds of veterans groups lobbying for changes in the way Veterans Day has been treated, the way veterans are treated, and it's going to try and lead me to my point about how much we as veterans have evolved and how much our need for us has evolved. We've awarded many medals to many soldiers and added their names to monuments, named buildings for them to honor them for their bravery, but nothing can ever replace the hole that's left behind by a fallen service member, and no number of medals and ribbons can comfort the ones that left behind. Today, people throughout this country will gather together to remember and to honor and pay tribute to those who have served our country. Our gathering is just one small spark in a flame of pride that burns across the nation's day and every day. It's not a lot, but it's one small way we can honor those who have made the ultimate sacrifice so that we can live in freedom. Your presence here today and that of a lot of people gathering across America is a tribute to those lost troops and their families. It's a way of saying we remember. But better than just remembering,
We need to think about how we can serve. And I would commend to you that we have things going on today in the political arena that needs our advice and our participation. We have leaders who've never served. They need to hear from veterans. We have grade school and high school students whose parents perhaps not have served. Because remember, we are an exclusive fraternity here. You realize that we represent only 10% of the population of the United States? Only 10% have actually served in the military. So when it comes time to make a decision on whether we're going to commit troops, I would like to see our leaders have input from those who have fought. I would advocate to you that we should always be very quick with a pen, quick with the computer, and quick with the story. Because the people who make the decisions on whether we should fight or not should hear from the ones who have fought. The ones who are making decisions on passing policy about how we're going to treat our enemies should hear from the people who most closely understand what our enemy is like. Again, war stories are not appropriate, but I cannot believe how different the rest of the world thinks than we do. Only people who've been in the Middle East or in South America have some comprehension about how different we are perceived by them than we perceive ourselves. Only that can be repaired by people who have that knowledge. So as veterans, I call upon you to keep that service going. Oh, there we go. I'll maybe try and tell me short and sweet. I would contend that we owe it to our youth, we owe it to our ancestors to keep public service in mind and in the forefront of the minds of people who are in our leadership, students in our schools, because they need to hear from us about military service. They need to hear about selfless service. I had 4 uncles who all fought in World War II. And that, you know, they never came back and talked about battles. They never talked about pride of service. But the other family members said, oh, he served. Uncle Bert, he served. And when it came time for me to go to college, my father said, it's good for you, boy, join ROTC. My academic advisor, who was a crippled man who had never served, it's good for you. So as veterans, that kind of influence is still necessary because we still need our brightest and best youth keeping military service going. We need to make sure our congressmen are still alert to how veterans think. We need to let our neighbors know that being a veteran is something not only of pride, but it marks us as someone who can be depended on to serve the community and the nation. Being a veteran is something we should all be very, very proud of. We should all be thanking each other every time we meet. Thanks for your service. You know how good that feels? Especially Vietnam people knows how well that feels. I'm still amazed. There's a reason I brought this hat today. I like wearing old Army hats. I walk into grocery stores and I forget that I've got one on. And somebody walks up and shakes my hand and says, thanks me for my service. And I go, oh, that feels good. How did he know? Oh, I'm wearing this crazy hat. Being a veteran is something, yes, be very proud of it. But every time you get thanked, think about the fact, how do I pass this on? How do I share my commitment for service? How do I share keeping our military strong? And how do I share with our leaders that they ought to always talk to a veteran before they send us into the next war? I want to thank you so much for asking me to speak. This is such an honor. You got to realize, as an ex-teacher, I love to talk. I always have something to try and pass on. Hopefully it's something you already know, but I love to teach. I love to speak. Thank you for having me. Thank you for your
Thank you, Herb. That was very it was good. Oh, okay.
I brought 2 spare speeches.
Well, you should. You should have kept on. That was very inspirational, so that's what I was trying to say. At this time, I'd like to play another song, if you don't mind.
Lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the ones who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. There ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, and from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston, from New York to LA. Well, there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say, I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the ones who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the ones who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the
Thought that song would be very appropriate for today. Couple announcements I have. All the Oskaloosa High School is having a program and honoring all veterans in the big gymnasium at 1 o'clock. And every veteran should be there. I know this is the student council under the guidance of Kim Giles, and I'm sure they're going to have a good program. And anyway, that's at 1 o'clock in the big gym there. And another thing, 2 things, at 2 o'clock, the Honor Guard and I are going to the North Mahaska Nursing Home and honor and have a little program and honor the veterans that reside out there. Then at 4 o'clock, we're going down to Homestead and honor the veterans down there. So we've got a pretty busy day ahead of us. We've done this for the last 3 or 4 years. I've been asked to speak at all the Kiwanis and the Rotan and different organizations